Hello everyone, and thank you for joining XROM Podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Avil. XROM Podcast is designed to celebrate, showcase, and shape the AR, VR, MR industry and to help you understand and learn about this transformational technology which holds potential to change the way we live, work, and play. It was a complete pleasure speaking with Kevin Joyce, founder of VR Focus, one of the top XR news platform, plus VR AR pioneers, and XR webzine, where I have had the privilege to be a contributing writer. He's also the lead evangelist at Admix and a community builder who enables developers, content creators to improve their monetization strategies. An inspiring conversation, and I hope you enjoy this. So thank you, Kevin. Sincerely appreciate you joining XROM Podcast. Thank you for giving time. And it's actually the Christmas Eve, 24th, and I'm bothering you on a podcast. Really appreciate you doing this. So Kev, you've been one of the front runners, right? You at this point in time, you're with VR AR pioneers, Admix, but you all started with VR Focus, right? So tell me your journey. You've been one of the first webzine, digital magazine. So can you start with VR Focus?
Sure. Well, my history actually goes back a little bit further than VR Focus. So originally I started in traditional games media. I ran a network of websites, UK-centric. From 2003, I launched that publication. And that was covering traditional video games, so like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, mobile games, PC games. And it was from that I had the opportunity to launch VR Focus. So essentially, because I'd been doing it for quite some time, I built a bit of reputation as being a respectable journalist in the industry, and I got offered the opportunity to start VR Focus. So I left traditional games journalism behind and went all in on VR, which at the time was quite a daring move, and I'm sure a lot of people will listen to this or watching this video, have made the same kind of, oh, do I? Is it too early? Is it not right time? But I made the jump, and it's now been 6 years since I launched VR Focus, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Lovely, super. So I guess yes. I mean, at the time when you were kind of like make the switch, at that point in time, looks very risky, but I'm sure it was calculated because back then, I'm sure you must have seen something in AR, VR, MR, or immersive technology, and I guess that's what possibly kind of pushed you to take that leap. I think the same thing happened with me. I was largely with the creative industry, and I was building content with my audio studio, video studio, and then early 2015 I discovered VR, and then I realized that it's the future. The way things are going to move, technology is going to play a big role. So tell me, what was it about immersive technology that kind of pulled you from a traditional journalist into this space?
So my first experience with modern VR, obviously I played VR in the 90s, and it wasn't great. But my first experience with modern VR was actually with the Oculus Rift, the DK1, but the HD version. And it was CCP Games were making Valkyrie, which obviously was eventually a launch title for the Oculus Rift. And I was at an event in Germany called Gamescom, which happens every year. And a friend of mine was working on that game, so he was like, come along, have a go, see what you think. And I tried it, and obviously Valkyrie was an amazing game. It's a cockpit-based simulator, so there was no simulation sickness. It was very high fidelity graphics. On the HD DK1, it worked beautifully. And even then, at that point, I was like, okay, there's something special about this. But I didn't get to try it again for several months after that, when I was offered the opportunity to start VR Focus. And my first decision, the reason why I decided to jump all in on VR Focus was I received a DK1, and I was playing around with it at home, just like see. At the time, there was no real supporting software, so you had to dig on the internet to find what you could that would run on it. And I managed to hack the original version of Half-Life 2, to work with a DK1. Shortly after this, it became unofficially supported, but my version of it was falling apart at the seams basically while I was playing it, but still just being immersed in that world, a world that I was very familiar with because I played Half-Life 2 many times on PC and Xbox and PlayStation, so I knew the game, but I'd never seen the world that it was set in the same way as I saw it on an Oculus Rift. And I said back then, and it still stands true of VR to this day, that the VR that we can experience right now is a promise. It's a promise of something much more bigger and vastly more immersive than what we have right now. You can be impressed by traveling to these virtual worlds and being able to communicate with people halfway across the world. I mean, we're having this call now you're on a 2D screen in front of me, but very soon you'll be a 3D avatar in front of me, and soon after that you'll be a face scan 3D avatar, and you'll be lip synced. And this is a promise building towards a future where basically anything you can imagine will be possible in VR. And that's the direction I've come to VR from. It's from the immersion background, from an entertainment background. And so I hope that sometime in 3 years from now, we'll be having this call where both of us sat in headsets and your avatar will look exactly like you.
Yeah. I mean, yes, obviously, I guess it's all about the promise. And I guess the ones who are vested in the space, I mean, see it. Right. I mean, we see that eventually this 2D medium is going to die down. It's taken 100 years to evolve, but this is what it's just a passive medium. Right. I mean, but VR is going to be interactive. We're going to step into the story. We're going to step into the spatial computing and the promise. Yes. I mean, but what, in all fairness, I mean, we see it, but the ones who are not vested in who do not understand it, I mean, they find it very difficult because change comes comfortable with what we have, but the future is coming so exponentially, and we need to understand about this. So how do we, as a community builder, what are the steps you think we should do to try to get those people who don't know about this technology or how deeply this technology is going to impact them? What do you think should be done to gather in those outsiders to turn into believers of immersive technology?
Well, obviously, the first thing is make it accessible for them to try. I'm sure yourself, and again, maybe watching this, were the same as me in that you can see what it's going to be like, and you have an idea, but until you actually try it yourself, you don't know. And it's really hard to tell people exactly what VR is, and even AR for that matter, what they are and what they can be if they haven't had first-hand experience. Now, nearly everybody I know has tried Pokemon Go, but that's like the lowest level of AR. It goes much, much, much deeper than that. I love Pokemon Go, don't get me wrong, but it's scratching the surface of AR. And so to tell someone that, oh yes, this, you can spin little balls on your phone and catch little monsters, but you can also have a heads-up display which gives you street directions and remembers the name of everybody you've ever met and all their family history and all that kind of stuff. I've got a terrible memory for names, so that's what I want for AI. I want a little icon that appears and says, "This is Eddie. You met him here, and this is what he does for a living." And because I'm terrible memory for that. So just little things like that. I can see that future coming, but I can only see that coming because I've had the experience with it. So the first thing is getting people to actually experience this technology, get a headset on them, get a phone in their hands that can do AR. The Google Maps, the new Google Maps AR update is a brilliant example of this. Again, you've gone from Pokemon Go, which is just overlaying objects onto a real-world environment, and then suddenly you hold your phone up and it tells you, it's got the arrows going, it's this street you turn down. It's not a 2D map anymore. It's showing you in the real world arrows, this is the way you need to travel, this is where your friends are. And that's the next step. Once people have actually experienced it, you then need to inform them of what the possibilities can be. So it's always best, I find, the experience that you should give to people is an experience that is something they're already familiar with. So again, Maps is a good example of this, but if you find someone that's working in the healthcare industry, there are loads of applications out there that are all about training, like CPR training, resuscitation and things like that. Show them, like, this is something that you're familiar with and you know how you would normally teach people it. This is how VR can do it. And that again is going to open up a load of new doors. The architecture, there's loads of architecture applications out there. I was at a conference earlier this year on art in VR. All these different kinds of mediums, they all transfer to VR as a new medium. So first give them a taste of it, and then give them a taste of something that they're familiar with, so they can see how VR and AR is going to change it.
Right, completely. Yes, I mean, I do agree that, I mean, till the time they don't try it themselves, it's very hard to kind of like put those words around and say that you're going to be living or story experiencing. We need to kind of like possibly simplify thing and take it to them. We could start with education, and you mentioned healthcare, and at this point in time, largely, I guess, that's where the adoption is going. At least in India, there's more interest in the space when it comes to enterprise and education, though even the entertainment side and gaming side are kind of exploring AR, VR, MR. So, you've been a VR journalist at the forefront of things since like one of the earliest movers, right? So you must have been privy to some of the top AR, VR companies. Now, lots of them have started with like really big hopes, maybe big money from the investors, and then they drop down and shut shop. So which are according to you, are the AR VR startups which has been sustained since like some time? Which are the couple of startups which you think are gonna possibly design our future?
My experience in VR, for those companies that have been successful or approaching success now, are the ones that planned ahead. Now, we all know that VR hasn't grown as much as most people expect it to, but to be honest, it's pretty much where I personally expected it to be. When I first started a VR focus, I said that VR hitting the mainstream was about 10 years out. And obviously, we're 6 years now into VR since then. So we've still got like another 4 years until I think VR is going to be real, like, impactful for society. And the startups that are going to be successful are the ones that plan for that future. Being able to launch a product now, a game or an application that can generate revenue and make a profit, is astounding. But there's only 2, maybe 3 companies that have managed to do that in the entire world without selling it to a bigger company. So companies like Servius, who made Raw Data, was one of their first games, and Vertigo Games in Holland that have made Arizona Sunshine. Companies like, and obviously Beat Games with Beat Saber. Companies like this are hugely successful already, and I wish them the best. It's wonderful to see some big names getting big attention and making genuine money. But it's going to be hard to become one of those right now. The way I see it is that you need to plan. So using games as an example, the game that you're building now needs to finance you, needs to make enough revenue to pay for you to make the next one. That's the way you should always be seeing it. Keep yourself one step ahead. You don't need to go out and make $10 million and buy everyone on the company Ferraris or anything like that. VR's not there yet. But if you can make sure that you survive until that time when VR is there, that's how you're going to be successful.
Rightfully said. I guess, yes, we all know that AR, VR it's very nascent stage. And I guess right now people are expecting too much out of a technology which is at a very nascent stage. Yes, it holds the promise. Yes, maybe it can kind of like converge your mobile phones and your computer into one single wearable device. Yeah, and it's going to help us enter the spatial computing. But yes, right now we are at a nascent stage. And yes, you rightfully said you plan for the future and sustain yourself, because sustainability being the main thing, you sustain yourself to the point where you can come to the point where the industry grows, and then you start building. But you start right now, and as a startup, I think you need to build products or services which adds value right now, and not think about the future. I'm sorry, you were saying something.
Sorry, the products that are being built right now that I am personally finding are becoming more successful is tools. It's software tools to help other people make VR and AR applications. That's where the buzz is right now. You mentioned earlier that enterprise is being very successful in India. Well, it's the same in Europe and America. Enterprise is where most of the money is right now. But the products that are coming up late 2019 and for most of 2020, in my mind, are going to be tools. It's going to be the devices, the systems that help other people make end user products. That's what's going to be. That's what's going to be where the transition from enterprise is. We're not going to enterprise consumer. It's going to be enterprise tools consumer, and that's where I think the 2020 is going to be. At least the early part of 2020. It's all going to be about who makes the stuff for the makers.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So yes, I mean, we need to enable others with the like you said, rightfully build tools that enable others. So tell me more about Admix. You are the
Lead
evangelist,
Evangelist.
yeah, lead evangelist at Admix. Please share me some details about Admix.
So Admix, it's not really a tool. It doesn't really fall into that category, but you could consider it that, I guess. So Admix is a non-intrusive advertising platform. So what that means, the comparison I always give, which I think I gave to you when we first spoke, is that on a traditional mobile game. I mean, I don't want to point out any names, but you can imagine when there's bits of candy falling from the top of the screen and you have to match them in puzzle sets of three. A game like that would have an advertising banner across the bottom of the screen, or maybe an interstitial pop-up ad, which appears once you complete a level. You have to watch this video for 30 seconds. Things like that are all well and good on a two-dimensional screen. It's there in front of you. You can look away. That doesn't matter. In VR, if that pop-up ad appears in front of your face, suddenly you're not in the world anymore. You're there watching an advert, and that doesn't work in VR. It's going to be terrible. So the idea of Admix is it gives developers an option to place adverts in the world. So if you're building a city scene. Now, I've never travelled to your part of the world, so I don't know what it's like where you are. But where I am here in London, every city corner has a billboard on it. Every city corner is telling me about what's new on Netflix or what coffee I should buy. So what Admix does is if you were building a city scene, you're able to place those billboards in the world just like they would be in real life. And the developers then gain revenue for every impression that advert makes. So if, for example, I'm in a VR experience and I'm sitting there with that's about 90 degrees, my 90-degree viewpoint, and I'm looking over here and no advert is there, and then I look over here and the billboard appears up to the side, I don't have to stare at the advert like on a mobile device. It's just in my field of view, in my world, and the developer will make revenue from that. And that's the whole idea of non-intrusive. It doesn't take the player out of the experience. It doesn't ruin the immersion. But it still allows the brand for that message to be delivered and the developer to make revenue from that. So Admix has been designed for this interim stage. As I say, it's VR right now is not making hundreds of thousands of millionaires across the world. But we do need to bring revenue into the industry. We do need developers to be able to get from project A to project B to project C. And so Admix is going to help generate revenue for those developers. Developers who can't charge $40, $50 for their game, they can make revenue from placing advertising.
Lovely. Yeah. So immersive advertising. I think it's such a big opportunity over there. Non-intrusive ads. I mean, virtual reality at this point in time is an isolating experience. But if you look at it, it's such a plus point. I mean, for somebody who's a brand, you've got a captive audience, and you can actually get where he's looking and stuff like that. So yes, there's a big opportunity over there. So tell me, I mean, besides Admix, you also you just recently founded VR AR Pioneers, right?
So VR AR Pioneers is actually a really exciting opportunity. So because I come from VR Focus, my CEO at Admix, Sam Huber, shout out to Sam if he watches this. So Sam was obviously very keen to keep me writing because it's what I'm known for. So he had a community, a Facebook community called VR AR Pioneers. And we decided when I first started Admix that we were going to launch vrarpioneers.com because it works both ways. Essentially, it allows me to still flex my ability to write my muscle, which is something I very much enjoy doing. But it also means that Admix can give back to the community. So what we do is we have a lot of resources on there. So we post articles that offer tips and guidance and simple things like SEO strategy, how to improve the ranking of your website, things like that. But also articles on what kind of events you should attend if you wish to show your VR product. And we also have lots of guest posts from people around the world who specialize in specific areas. We have, for example, there's a gentleman that was just doing PR for a VR game, and he's writing a feature series on how PR for VR video games differs from traditional video games. We also have yourself, who's written a few pieces for us now on what the VR scene is like in India, which obviously the reaction we've had from a lot of developers in Europe and America, I've said this to you before, a lot of them have come back to me and said, we never even thought of India as a market, and now this guy telling us this is a huge thing. So hopefully we're going to see more American games translated for launch in localized, for launch in India soon. So VR AR Pioneers really is an opportunity for myself and for Admix to work with the development community and find out what it is that they need and where Admix can help them outside of generating revenue.
Lovely, and you I mean, you're building a community, with whatever you've been doing, VR Focus, Admix, or VR AR Pioneers. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to write for VR AR Pioneers. So you know what? As a community builder, at times it can get very, very difficult, because what we are doing at this point in time, because the industry is in such a nascent stage, monetization becomes such a big problem. So because right now, like I've got Immersion VR Fest, which I founded. It's India's first VR film festival conference. And yes, I mean things. I've been pushing this since 2016 to make the VR Film Festival happen. So I kind of like knocked at each and every big company's door that, I mean, AR VR is the big thing and we need to build this festival. So we build a community and build the ecosystem. But everybody said, Eddie, that's a great idea, but I think you're too early into the ecosystem. But then I didn't stop. I put in my own thing. Then I built AR, the VR Film Festival and Conference. I put together XROM, which is the digital news platform, and also the podcast, XROM podcast right now. But it gets it gets so very difficult to sustain it. So what would be your advice to people like me, who are possibly around the world? I think we're going to play a big role in building this ecosystem forward. What should one do to, build a community, which is a global community, because that's the only way I think we can grow the ecosystem forward of this technology, which is in such a nascent stage.
So I learned a lot from my time leading VR Focus as CEO there. So essentially, when I was doing VR Focus, we were very siloed. It was like, this is our team, and it's only our team that can do this. Then when I moved to Admix and started VR AR Pioneers and didn't have a team, and it was essentially just me doing these things, I realized that is not necessarily the way that everything should be run. So VR Focus speaks directly to consumers. It's a consumer-based website. It reports on what's coming up and what is available now. And there's no secrets. It is very much in the consumer space. With Pioneers, because I'm targeting developers, a lot of the stuff is much, much earlier. So I've realized for this point, I can't do everything myself. So my advice to people that are building communities out there within the industry, not the consumer end, but within the industry like XROM and Pioneers, is that if somebody offers you an olive branch, if somebody's going to say, you know what, I love this and I want to help out, just say yes. Just say yes. Let other people in. You don't have to be siloed like VR Focus is. You can go, you know what, let's give that a try. If it works, great. If it doesn't, nobody's going to be mad at you. You know, at least you're trying. At least you're doing new things. I know a lot of people that have founded meetup groups. There's a meetup group, SFVR in San Francisco. There's another really strong one, Silicon Valley VR. It's called SVVR. And there's one in Orange County. This is just down the coastline of West America. And then there's loads in London as well. And all these meetup groups, they operate in a very similar fashion in that they have one person who is like the chairman, the leader of the group. But they have dozens of people that just help out and just like, you know what, this guy's busy, so I'm going to muck in and do that. And the same works with online communities. VR AR Pioneers is very much a case of, if I'm not there and I can't do it, somebody else will come along and help. And I'm happy to let them help. And I would expect the same from XROM, as once the community grows, that you're going to get people knocking down your door saying, hey, you know what, can I help out? And you need to say yes.
Yeah, obviously, because I really believe the collaboration is the future. And I guess that's the only way you can grow the ecosystem. So tell me, I mean, at this point in time, the industry is moving extremely slowly, right? I mean, at this point in time, I've been going and talking at various conferences, and not just in UK but around Europe and around the world. So where do you think the current industry stands at this point in time?
Well, I actually couldn't disagree more with what you just said. You mentioned the VR industry is moving very slowly. No chance. It's moving rapidly again. This industry is constantly snowballing and building up pace. This holiday season in Europe is just massive for VR. The Oculus Quest is selling out everywhere. As you mentioned earlier, it's Christmas Eve today. If you haven't got an Oculus Quest now, you're not getting one. They're sold out everywhere. On Amazon, they're going for about 20% more than the actual retail price because people have bought them in bulk and they're trying to sell them on and make money off them. VR is transitioning. It's in a period of transition where the actual consumer adoption rate is, for gaming again, because that's my background, the consumer adoption rate is going to increase dramatically over this holiday period. I always said when the Oculus Quest was first announced in September last year, so September 2018, they announced it was going to launch early in 2019. And I said right then and there, is this holiday period has to make a difference. If this holiday period we don't see record sales for the Oculus Quest, then Oculus have wasted their opportunity. And you know what? We're seeing massive sales. So what's going to happen in my mind is that we're going to have an inflection point now. Everyone who's got their Quest for Christmas is going to show it to all their friends, and everyone's going to love it. And like I said earlier, the best way to get people to love VR is to demo it to them. So now you're going to get, essentially, again, my job title was Lead Evangelist, but Oculus are now going to get a load of free evangelists, people that are going to go out and go, look at this awesome thing I just got for Christmas, pop it on their heads, now you think it's awesome too. And this is the inflection point. This is the time when the people who knew nothing about VR until they've put that headset on, they're going to be, wow, I want to get one of these too. And so while we're getting record sales this Christmas period, it's actually going to be next year where the landscape's changed completely. There's going to be people going out and buying headsets constantly throughout the year. And Oculus have this strategy so obviously, as I'm sure you know, and most people watching this know, the Oculus Quest is a closed garden as such. You can't launch a product on Oculus Store unless Oculus say so. So Oculus has been doing this thing where essentially they're bottlenecking software releases. Bottleneck is the wrong word, throttling. So they only allow a certain amount of new content to launch on the store over a period of time, and it's been annoying for developers this year, but it's a clever strategy because it means that throughout the tail end of this year and all of next year, there's going to be a constant stream of new releases. Every week there'll be something new because they've got a backlog that they're working through, so they can make sure that there's constantly new software and something new and exciting. So if you go around to your friend's house 2 days, 3 days from now and you play something, think, oh yeah, that's really cool, I want to get one of those. Then you go back a week later and play something else that's cool and brand new. And then you go back a week later. Eventually, you're going to go, right, okay, there's too much cool stuff now. I need to go get one. And when you do get one, there's going to be new stuff even then. It's not all going to be the stuff that you've seen at your friend's house or playing out in public. So there is going to be this massive ramp up over 2020 with consumers in the gaming sphere. So I don't believe that we're going slow. I believe that we're still at rapid pace. There's new handsets, new phones come out constantly that do much better AR. So I myself am a Pixel lover. I have a Google Pixel phone, XL of course, because it's got massive hands. And the AR that you see going from Pixel 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, it's just amazing differences. And obviously the new iPhones and all the new Samsung phones are massively AR compatible. And AR, in my mind, is a case of we do need to get from the magic window to the world. So the handset, if you imagine, you're basically holding up a window where the magic happens, whereas eventually we'll get to glasses where the world becomes magic. So we do need to make that transition with AR, and VR is a little bit ahead in that sector because of the fact that it necessitates you closing off the world so you can create anything you want in VR. But that will come as well. I recently had the pleasure of using the Nreal Light glasses. Have you seen those?
No, I've just seen it obviously in the promos YouTube, but have not had a first-hand experience. Obviously, they are. I was blown away. They are genuinely as good as they say. I believe. Don't quote me on this, although someone probably will. I believe they're about $300, if memory serves. And when you compare that to a HoloLens or a Magic Leap 1, there's just no competition. Wow. The Nreal Light glasses are phenomenal. So the transition from Magic Window to Magic World is going to happen soon. And so, yeah, with VR hitting consumers finally and AR making that transition from smartphone to headset,
you're wrong, Eddie. We're still going.
Obviously, I want to be proved wrong because I want this industry to really grow into a big thing. So yes, thank you for sharing all the information. And so in India, we have more than around 200 odd AR, VR, MR startups in the country, right? And now some of these startups would actually want to kind of explore the global market too. Now, would you be open to kind of get in touch with them, kind of cover them and stuff like that? Because my listeners would want to know, because I'm sure there'll be all these developers and content creators, startups who are doing some really cool stuff, and would want to kind of reach out to the UK market. So maybe possibly kind of reach, showcase this stuff, so investors get to know that this is what they're doing. So would you be open to covering them, interviewing startups from India? Of course.
Yeah. So it's really the two different sides that you're asking about. We've got the VR focus and the VR AR pioneers. So the way to handle this is always very much who are you focused on at this point in time. So if you're looking for consumers, people to buy your product, actual money, you want VR focus. And the way that works is that someone who's launching a game or an application 2-3 months from now will get in touch with me. We discuss the best way in which we would cover them, be it an interview, running a trailer, hands-on piece, whatever it may be. And once we've outlined that strategy, I would then put them in touch with the writing team at VR Focus and say, this is what we believe is the route for travel, and that's the way we would execute it. But that has to be quite a while before they actually launch. It has to be a few months, because my writing team, obviously, there is a lot of content out there, and they need time to actually get hands-on and get to grips with what this is and edit the content. So that's VR Focus. Now, if you're just looking to raise your profile, if you're looking to get some awareness out there and get some interest raised, if you're looking to put a couple of links in a pitch deck for investors, or if you're looking to reach out to other people in the development community, that's Pioneers. And the way that works is that you can get in touch with me, and much like you did, Eddie, when we first spoke, we can talk about what it is you're doing and how that applies to the industry in America and Europe specifically, but also we do have a large audience in Korea and Japan, and figure out what it is that you're doing that these people aren't achieving, what it is that makes you special, and then we can execute on that, be that a regular series or a one-off piece about that special thing that you have that nobody else has. And Pioneers is very much about sharing with the rest of the community. So if you're doing something that nobody else has seen, by all means, put pen to paper, write it down, and share it, let other people learn from it, and they will remember that. They will very much remember. Again, using Eddie here as an example, the amount of people that are constantly asking me about Immersion Fest, and I'm like, I don't know, I wasn't there, I know nothing about it. And so obviously I shout them out, take turns, go to the website and such, and that kind of connection is what Pioneers is all about. People that have something that nobody else has got, share it. Let's grow this community together.
Completely. I guess that's the only way to grow. Come together, collaborate, and help each other and grow the community. So tell me, where do you see AR, VR, MR in the next 5 years and 10 years period?
So 5 years is 1 year after it's going to go massive and hit the mainstream. So in 5 years' time, I don't believe we'll be quite at the single headset yet. I do believe that VR and AR are going to converge and become one headset. I saw a really interesting patent by Microsoft a few years ago, before the HoloLens was announced, where they had an AR device with glasses, an AR device, and had a shutter that you'd close, and the light particles that were projected were then reflected against a black screen. So it went from being AR to VR in one device. I don't think we'll get that within 5 years. Definitely within 10, but within 5 years, it will be VR and AR will be they'll be ubiquitous. Everybody will know what VR and AR is. Whether they have one at home or not, I don't know. But the majority of people, especially people our age group and younger, everyone will have tried it. Everyone will know what it is. It will become a part of everyday life. Within 10 years, everybody will be doing it. My mother will be sat at home watching EastEnders in VR. It'll be everywhere you go. Everyone you speak to will know exactly what it is. Everyone will have a device on their coffee table that can do both AR, VR, MR, XR, ZR, YR, whatever you want to call it at that time. Everyone will know what it is. And the thing is, as we mentioned a few times on this chat, it's not just about entertainment. You'll be using it in your everyday life at work, spatial computing as such. You'll be having calls like this as if it was just like clicking call on Skype. You'll just put the headset on. You'll be there with your colleagues or your friends or your family. That's my genuine view as to where it's going to go.
Yeah, lovely. So, I mean, the future looks so exciting, Yes, the possibilities are endless, when this technology matures.
You're saying it's exciting now. In 10 years, you'll get bored of it. It's like, oh, I want you to look like a dragon today. I'm bored of looking at your face on this conference call.
Yeah. So, yes, exactly. So, the possibilities are endless. I mean, you'll start possibly redesigning and redefining what we call reality. To end on a speculative note, what are your views on the simulation theory? I mean, do you think that if we push virtual reality maybe in another 10, 20 years down the line, at this point in time, we're talking about there are already people who are actually taking the cognitive structure of a C. elegans worm or rat, and kind of like they're uploading it onto a computer, because the C. elegans worm is somewhere around just 320 odd neurons, and I don't know the exact the size of mice, but they can at this point in time upload the entire cognitive structure on a computer, right?
Okay.
Do you see this with companies like Neuralink, Elon Musk company Neuralink, Facebook, which is still fronting brain-computer interface? Then there's Brian Johnson with Kernel, who's looking at brain-computer interface. Do you see a future where it'll come to a point where we will not be able to decipher between what is virtual and what is a physical reality?
So I don't believe in the Matrix, no. But I do very much believe that there will come a time when we are able to upload a version of ourselves essentially to computers and the internet, and there will be an AI existence of us in the cloud, or however you want to see it, in however long that takes. I can't believe it's in the next 10 years, but maybe 40 years from now, I do believe that'll be possible. The question obviously is, should we? So when I first jumped into VR, a lot of people shared with me that image, I'm sure you've seen it, of the guy alone in his empty room where the windows are smashed and whatever else, and he just sat in the corner under a blanket in VR. A lot of people, it was like, this is going to be you in 5 years, Kev. And I don't believe that's going to be the case. There will never be a 100% precise replacement for face-to-face contact. Even just the tactile feedback of shaking somebody's hand or eye contact. We can get a close facsimile, but there's never going to be 100% replacement. And I don't believe we're ever going to get not in my lifetime at least. I don't believe we're going to get the technology where being sat across the table from somebody eating dinner is going to be 100% replicable. You know what I mean? 100% reproduced in virtual reality. We'll get pretty close, but that's not going to happen. So being able to upload like cognitive structure and things like that, yes, that will be you'll be capable of that. But I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being much like a film CGI, for example. Today, I recently saw Alita: Battle Angel, which is a James Cameron film, and I love it. It's absolutely amazing. But I could still tell that the lead character, Alita, her eyes had been adapted by CGI to make them bigger. And that's what this will be like, at least in my lifetime. When the virtual Eddie is on the computer somewhere, I'll know if it's the real Eddie I'm talking to or the virtual one.
So thank you, Kevin. Thank you for giving time and being part of XROM podcast. It was a lovely conversation, and thank you for being part of it. And yes, for the ones who are listening, if you like what you see in here, please press the subscribe button, and I will leave all the details behind Kevin. So if you want to get in touch with Kevin, I'm going to have his details linked up below for you. And until next time, I'm going to see you. Bye bye. See you. And Kevin, thank you for being part of this podcast. Really appreciate this. Yeah, thank you.